The waiter at Le Bernardin placed a cold plate in front of me as my family dined on steaming lobster and prime cuts. From my relegated corner of Dad's 65th birthday dinner, I watched them celebrate another year of the Marshall family's supposed financial dominance. "At least they're feeding you something," my brother James smirked, cutting into his perfectly cooked wagyu. "Though I suppose failed entrepreneurs can't be picky. If he only knew that I own not just Le Bernardin but the entire building." My failed real estate startup had quietly acquired half of Manhattan's premium restaurant properties over the past 5 years. My phone buzzed discreetly. "Purchase complete. Marshall Financial Building transfer finalized. $400 million transaction cleared." I smiled into my cold soup, remembering Dad's lecture last month about how I was wasting my potential on silly property deals, instead of joining the family investment firm. The firm that now unknowingly rented their office space from me. "Alexandra," my mother sighed, pearls glinting under the chandelier, "couldn't you at least have worn something appropriate? The Rothschilds are here." I glanced down at my deliberately understated blazer that cost more than her entire wardrobe. "I'm comfortable, Mother." "That's the problem," James chimed in. "Too comfortable being mediocre while the rest of us build something meaningful." My phone lit up again. Closing documents ready for Marshall Financial Building. New ownership to be announced at 9 p.m. I checked the ornate clock. 8:15 p.m. In 45 minutes, they'd learned that their precious headquarters now belonged to the daughter they served cold food. To another record year. Dad raised his glass, his Patek Philippe catching the light. "Thanks to James's brilliant leadership, Marshall Financial has secured its legacy." I bit back a laugh. Their legacy now sat in my investment portfolio, right between the Plaza Hotel and 4 blocks of Fifth Avenue. The waiter, actually my head of operations in disguise, approached with the next course. "Everything in place for 9 p.m., Ms. Marshall," he whispered while serving. As my family continued their feast of self-congratulation, I checked the time again. 8:30 p.m. Soon they'd learn what real estate empire building looked like. And it wasn't served cold. 8:40 p.m. My cold plate remained untouched as the family launched into their favorite topic, listing my failures. "Remember when Alexandra thought she could break into luxury real estate?" James laughed, swirling his $2,000 Bordeaux. "What was that first investment of yours?" "A food truck lot." That food truck lot was now the site of Manhattan's most exclusive residential tower. I'd flipped it for $200 million last year. "At least she tried something," Mother offered with practiced sympathy. "Though darling, that rental property business of yours, how many units do you manage now?" 2. 3. Try 2,000. Plus the building where she got her hair done, the block where she shopped, and as of 20 minutes ago her husband's corporate headquarters. My phone buzzed again. "Urgent. Press release ready for distribution. Asterisk Marshall Financial Building sale confirmed. Asterisk new owner. AM Holdings, Alexandra Elizabeth Marshall. Asterisk value. $400 million. 8:45 p.m. 15 minutes until the announcement. "You know," Dad pontificated, straightening his custom Brioni tie, "there's still a junior position at the firm. Something simple where you can't lose too much money." I suppressed a smile, thinking about the document sitting in my inbox. The deed to his beloved building, purchased through a series of shell companies he'd been too arrogant to investigate. "Speaking of the firm," James continued, "wait until you hear about our latest acquisition. We just secured the financing to buy the Thompson building next door. Finally expanding the Marshall empire." 8:50 p.m. 10 minutes. "Actually," I spoke up for the first time, "the Thompson building isn't for sale." "Oh." James smirked. "And how would you know that?" "Because I bought it last month." The silence that followed was worth every cold plate they'd ever served me. 8:55 p.m. 5 minutes. "Don't be ridiculous," Dad scoffed, but I noticed his hand trembling slightly as he reached for his wine. "That's a $300 million property." $320 million actually, I corrected. Though it was a package deal with some other buildings in the area. My mother's pearls suddenly felt very tight around her neck. "Alexandra, stop being absurd. You manage a few rental properties." "I manage," I interrupted softly, "about 60% of Manhattan's premium commercial real estate." including, as of tonight, the Marshall Financial Building. 8:59 p.m. 1 minute. James's fork clattered against fine china as every phone at the table started buzzing simultaneously. The breaking news alerts began. Breaking. Marshall Financial Building sold. Mystery buyer revealed. Alexandra Marshall. Family failure, emerges as real estate mogul. 9 p.m. I've been meaning to discuss the rent, I said calmly, finally taking a bite of my cold food. I think it's time for an adjustment. Upward. Dad's face went from red to white as he stared at his phone. This is impossible. Actually, I smiled, pulling out the ownership documents, it's quite possible. And about that junior position? I don't think I'll be needing it. But you might want to update your resume. I hear the new owner is quite particular about her tenants. The fine crystal wine glasses trembled as my father's fist hit the table. Around us, New York's elite pretended not to stare, but I caught the glint of phones recording what would surely become Manhattan legend. How? He demanded, his face flushed darker than his Bordeaux. With what money? I pulled out my tablet, displaying a portfolio that made their precious firm look like a corner lemonade stand. IM Holdings assets. Asterisk 60% of premium Manhattan commercial real estate. Asterisk 40 luxury hotels. Asterisk 200 high-end restaurant properties. Asterisk and now the Marshall Financial Building. That's billions, James whispered, his wagyu growing cold. You can't possibly. Current net worth, $8.2 billion, I finished for him. Though it fluctuates. Sometimes I make a few $100 million before lunch. Mother's hands shook as she reached for her water. But your little rental company was a front, I explained, scrolling through my holdings. Every time you mocked my small-time deals, I was quietly buying up the city. That embarrassing food truck lot? Now it's the Diamond Tower. Those pathetic warehouse investments? The most expensive shopping district in Manhattan. The waiter, my sous, approached with a stack of documents. The updated lease agreements, Ms. Marshall. For all Marshall Financial properties. Dad's Patek Philippe suddenly looked very cheap against the paperwork showing I owned his entire business world. Let's review your new terms, I continued, enjoying how the tables had quite literally turned. Rent will triple effective immediately. The Marshall name comes down from the building by tomorrow. And that expansion plan you were so proud of? Cancelled. James fumbled with his phone, desperately calling his lawyers. You can't just. I can, I cut him off. And I did. Check your email, your brilliant legal team approved the sale last week. Though they didn't know they were selling to me, of course. Too busy laughing at my amateur real estate ventures to check who was behind the shell companies. The news alerts kept coming. Alexandra Marshall's empire revealed. Asterisk controls $15 billion in Manhattan real estate. Asterisk owns city's most prestigious properties. Asterisk family firm now operates under daughter's empire. By the way, I added, finally pushing away my cold plate, I own Le Bernardin too. And about 200 other top restaurants in the city. Interesting how you always seated me in the back, not knowing I owned the place. Mother's social mask cracked completely. All those times we invited you to benefits. I was hosting them, I finished. That charity gala you excluded me from last month? It was in my hotel. The venue you bragged about booking for James's wedding? I own the entire block. The restaurant had gone quietly still, New York's power players watching their world order shift in real time. And Dad, I turned to face him directly, about that junior position. The position is still open, I continued, savoring each word like the wine they'd denied me. Though not quite the one you offered. We need someone to manage the building's mail room. Given your new circumstances, you might want to consider it. Dad's Mont Blanc pen cracked in his grip as more headlines flashed across his phone. Marshall Financial to be absorbed into IM Holdings. Daughter's empire swallows family firm. Real estate's new queen, Alexandra Marshall's stealth takeover. This is business terrorism, James sputtered, his Harvard MBA suddenly worth less than the cold sauce congealing on his plate. No, I corrected, pulling up more documents on my tablet. This is what happens when you're too busy mocking someone to notice they're buying everything you value. Speaking of which, that corner office you love so much? I'm turning it into a storage closet. Mother's carefully curated society smile crumbled. But your little apartment in Brooklyn is the penthouse of a building I own, I said. Along with that entire block you called desperately unfashionable last Christmas. It's amazing how much real estate you can acquire when everyone thinks you're failing. My phone lit up with another alert. Alexandra Marshall announces further acquisitions. Asterisk Marshall Financial Building to be renamed M Tower. Asterisk Family Firm's assets transferred to daughter's control. Asterisk Historic Marshall offices to become tech incubator. You see, I continued, watching James's face contort as he read each update. While you were all laughing at my small investments, I was building an empire. Every time you served me cold food at family dinners, I was buying another piece of Manhattan. Every time you relegated me to the kids' table at benefits, I was acquiring the venues you so proudly frequented. Dad's hands trembled as he reached for the lease documents. The terms, these are impossible. Actually, I smiled, they're quite generous considering. Though I should mention, your reserved parking spot is being converted into a bike rack. Environmental concerns, you understand. The waiter returned with fresh contracts. Ms. Marshall, the building signage team is ready for your approval. Should we proceed with the removal tonight? Perfect timing, I nodded. Make sure to document it. Nothing quite like watching the Marshall name come down on Dad's birthday. Mother's pearls felt like a noose as another notification lit up her phone. Marshall Social standing in free fall. Asterisk Family Firm lost to daughter's takeover. Asterisk Society events moved to AEM Properties. Asterisk Power Dynasty crumbles as hidden empire emerges. Oh, and about those cold plates you've been serving me, I added, signaling to the chef, another of my executives in disguise. I think it's time we adjusted the temperature of everyone's dinner. After all, I continued, watching the staff deliberately clear their steaming plates. Revenge, like real estate, is best served cold. The replacement dishes arrived. Identical to their previous meals, but carefully chilled to the same temperature they'd always served me. Is something wrong with the food? I asked innocently, noting James's grimace at his now cold wagyu. I specifically instructed the chef to serve it Marshall family style. More breaking news flashed across the restaurant's discrete screens. IM Holdings reveals full portfolio. Asterisk 200+ premium Manhattan properties. Asterisk majority control of luxury restaurant scene. Asterisk Marshall family assets now 2% of daughter's empire. You know what's truly ironic? I mused, finally pushing away my own cold plate. Every time you mocked my little investments, I was buying another piece of your world. Every time you laughed at my amateur deals, I was acquiring the very restaurants where you belittled me. My phone buzzed with a new update. Marshall Financial Building update. Asterisk signage removal team in position. Asterisk new M Tower letters ready. Asterisk livestream of rebranding to begin at 10 p.m. Speaking of property changes, I smiled, checking the time. Shall we step outside? I believe they're about to start removing your name from my building. Dad's face went ashen. You wouldn't dare. Not tonight. Why not? It's a birthday celebration after all. Though probably not the one you expected. The restaurant's private terrace offered a perfect view of the Marshall Financial Building, soon to be EM Tower. As we stepped out into the cool Manhattan air, the first letter of Marshall began to descend. Fascinating process, isn't it? I commented, watching their legacy literally being dismantled. Almost as fascinating as watching you all laugh at my failed career while I systematically bought every property you cared about. James clutched his wine glass like a lifeline. The board won't stand for this. The board, I interrupted, approved the sale last month. Though they thought they were selling to a European investment group. Amazing how easy it is to hide ownership when people underestimate you. Them, in Marshall hit the ground with a satisfying thud as more notifications lit up our phones. Alexandra Marshall's revenge. Asterisk family name removed from Skyline. Asterisk cold-served daughter heats up real estate market. Asterisk birthday dinner becomes power transfer ceremony. By the way, I added, watching the inn begin its ascent, I've reassigned your office spaces. James, you'll be in the basement. Better view of the bike rack that's replacing Dad's parking spot. Mother, your social club's lease is up for review. And Dad, I paused, savoring the moment as my initials claimed their place on the Manhattan skyline. Dad, about that cold food you've been serving me all these years? Consider this your last supper as a real estate power player. Though I hear the building's cafeteria serves quite a decent lunch. You know, for those mailroom salary budgets. The final letters of Marshall came down as my name rose above the city. In that moment, watching their empire crumble and mine rise, I realized. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's buying every piece of the world that thought you were a failure and serving it back to them at exactly the temperature they deserve. 1 year later. The same table at Le Bernardin, but the seating arrangement had changed dramatically. I sat at the head, reviewing property acquisitions on my tablet, while my family occupied the seats I'd once been relegated to. More cold soup, Dad? I asked, watching him shiver in his downgraded suit. I hear it's quite nutritious on a mailroom salary. James, now managing the building's parking validation desk, stared longingly at the premium wines he could no longer afford. His Harvard MBA hung in the mailroom, right next to the bike rack that had replaced Dad's parking spot. Mother's social calendar remained notably empty since most of her favorite venues were now my properties. Her weekly charity lunches had been relocated to the building's basement cafeteria, the same one she'd once called beneath the Marshall name. My phone buzzed with the latest headlines. PM Holdings expands again. Asterisk Alexandra Marshall acquires former competitors. Asterisk family's last investment property absorbed into empire. Asterisk cold food heiress now controls 80% of Manhattan premium real estate. You know, I mused, watching them pick at their deliberately chilled meals. They say success is the best revenge. But I found that success plus real estate plus temperature control makes it even sweeter. The waiter, now actually a waiter since my executives had more important things to do, approached with their checks. Gone were the corporate cards and expense accounts. Welcome to the world of carefully counting change. Happy anniversary, I smiled, raising my perfectly heated soup. To the family that taught me the true value of cold dishes and hot revenge. Above us, KM Tower gleamed in the Manhattan skyline, a constant reminder that sometimes the daughter you serve cold food might just